Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.
Okay, let's go ahead and pop open the text. So in this presentation of the text, they're presenting the three wisdoms a little differently than we normally think of them. So last week we did cover the traditional three wisdoms, and then this starts unpacking them within a framework of the Bodhisattva path, within the framework of the six perfections. And so these three, wisdom of understanding conventional, that's the conventional world we live in: philosophy, medicine, arts, technology, languages, so forth. Then the wisdom of knowing how to benefit sentient beings. Going a little fast because we covered this last week, but just a refresher. So, we have the normal wisdom. That's why some people go to college, right? That's why you have students, Kevin, because they're looking for knowledge, okay? But wow, what kind of wisdom can we have to know how to benefit others, how to be skillful in our interactions with others, how to be helpful and really be a part of this community of life. And so that requires some training and some skill. It's very important to have. And then we get to the third kind of wisdom, which right here, last sentence. Third kind of wisdom is the most important wisdom understanding the ultimate nature of things, the emptiness of inherent existence. This wisdom is diametrically opposed to the ignorance that is the root of samsara and its various sufferings. In fact, it is the sole antidote to all delusions, anger, attachment, jealousy, and so on. Other antidotes, like those explained in the chapter on the true origins of sufferings, can only temporarily suppress delusions but not eradicate them from the root. Only the wisdom directly realizing emptiness has the power to do that. So this is, again, just the fruition of the path. If you get here, we can free ourselves. Main problem is misunderstanding. The solution, understanding. And so everything that we do in this whole journey of Buddhism is simply to know the truth, know how things are, know how you exist, know how the world is. So it's always just unpacking reality. And yes. Oh, microphone. Thanks.
John, would you say when the text is mentioning emptiness, is that synonymous with selflessness?
Selflessness is a form of emptiness. Selflessness is more directed at the emptiness of self, whereas emptiness in all things is that more general. So selflessness is understanding the emptiness of the I, the self, specifically. And so there's actually some different schools of thought on Buddhism where you're just trying to recognize selflessness and you'll be free. Whereas a Madhyamaka view is, everything's empty. So emptiness of phenomena, emptiness of self. And it's all empty. Yeah. But the root, it's this grasping the self in a way we don't exist. So you'll see them used interchangeably. Okay. Good question. So let's dive in a little bit to see the unpacking because I did not read ahead. So, see, like emptiness, also known as selflessness, is one of the most difficult and complex subjects among all Buddhist teachings. Oh, I didn't share it. I'm just reading it. That would be helpful. If I knew where it went. I think I just closed the text. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. It's empty of the Kindle. May not be able to get it back. Oh, it's all right. Computer's just thinking. A lot. Thinking a lot. I see a spinning. Ah, yeah, it's coming up. So, just, okay, it is coming up. Sort of. In its own time. In its own way. All right, there we go. Now I can share it. Zoom in, share. There we go. Emptiness, also known as selflessness, but there is that distinction, is one of the most difficult and complex subjects among all of Buddhist teachings, is often misunderstood. Some people think it means nothingness, that things do not exist at all, but that is not correct. Buddhism does not deny conventional existence of sentient beings, samsara, and nirvana. Tables and chairs, trees and mountains, and so on. These things do exist, but they exist. The way they exist is opposite to the way we normally think and perceive. Our mind is habituated from beginningless time to see things as if they existed from their own side objectively without depending on anything else. That is the meaning of inherent existence. Our mind ignorantly projects this mode of existence onto phenomenon when they're in fact empty of such existence. That's where we left off last week. So all of you can now explain that to me, right? Well, those that were here, actually. Good call. Good call. I wasn't here. Yeah, so just a little refresher. This is where people get stuck, is the idea of when we're saying something's empty of existence, they're empty of the qualities that we attribute as to how they exist. And so it's not saying it doesn't exist. It says it doesn't exist in the way I perceive it, and I imbue qualities upon it. And so the easiest way, I think, for me is when we talk about people, and that's where I think I talked a bit, is that when we see a person, we think they're like this, right? And we see them, and they're that kind of person, and we know their qualities, and then we forget that somebody else sees the same person differently, has different qualities. Some people like them, some people don't like them. Some people think they're funny, some people don't think they're funny. Some people, find them annoying, some people find them pleasurable to be around, right? So, and all of you are seeing a different John. And I'm seeing you differently than someone else sees you. So you're empty of the qualities that I'm imputing upon you. Right? I'm seeing you in a different way. That's not inherently how you are. And everything that we see, we do the same thing to. And then we do these elaborate deconstructions of how things are, how they exist. Computer, phone, and so we wouldn't say, yeah, we could always say, yeah, there's a phone, right? We can agree, a phone. Except, really, is it a computer or a phone? And you're already getting a little bit of a question, because pretty much is a computer that you can talk to. You can also look up stuff, be a browser. If you didn't have cell service, is it still a phone? Because you can't make a call. So what makes it a phone? Then you start trying to figure out what makes it a phone. Is it a phone because you can call somebody, but there's no service, then you can't call anybody? Right? battery's dead, you can't call somebody. If it's broken, you can't call anybody. So then is it still a phone? Well, okay, what makes it a phone then? Okay, if you can't call, okay, it's not a call. Is it the shape? Well, clearly nowadays phones come in all kinds of shape. Back when I was growing up, there was a big thing with a cord, and that was a phone. Maybe this is a smart one, that was a dumb one, I'm not sure. But then we start calling things differently. When you start recognizing that, even if you were to take it apart, when would it become a phone? When would it stop being a phone? Do the same thing with a car. A lot of times they use a car. You start taking a car apart. When does it stop being a car? When is it just the parts? When does it become a car? At what point? When you start recognizing that the only thing that makes it a car is the fact that you and I call it a car. And we have a concept of a car in our mind. And that's coming to a reality that cars in my mind, this is a conventional thing, but a deer looking at that does not see a car. I'm curious what a deer would call it. Cat see it differently, right? So we start to recognize that, yeah, things exist, but they're not inherently existent, independent from their own side. And we rarely think of things like that. The only thing that makes us a table is you and I agree it's a table. It's being used as a table. But when you sit there, the wood doesn't make it a table. There's tables made out of metal. Legs don't make it a table. Some have 3 legs, some have 4 legs. So other pieces of furniture that have legs. Actually, couches sort of have legs. They're short and stubby. Unless it'd be a really tall couch, in which case that'd be really, maybe you need a lift or something. But then would it just be a tall couch or a table that looks like a couch? I'm not sure. But you start, piecing these things together and you start imputing, well, this is a table. I'm using it as a table. I got stuff on it. But the idea of a table is really just a concept in my mind. It's a label I put on it, I impute upon it. But there's nothing that is the table that makes it a table other than the label and how I use it. And then we can get way into it doesn't exist independently. Someone had to make it. They had to grow from wood. People had to, harvest wood. People had to come up with ideas and constructs about how to finish the wood and all the other components. And so basically, anything that we see, experience, comes into being from causes and conditions and parts and pieces. It never existed and independently, right? We can just wake up and there's a table here, right? So inherent existence or emptiness means nothing exists independently. Everything exists in dependence upon causes, conditions. So everything is interdependent. Everything is dependent upon and comes into fruition. And nothing, when we talk about empty, well, it's empty. Like this is empty of the tableness. Because that's an idea in my mind. I'm imputing upon it that it's a table. I'm using it as a table. I'm not sure what a French word would be. You know what a French word for table would be?
No.
Put you on the spot, didn't I?
Yeah.
Wow.
Tinge.
Spanish? Spanish is mesa. Yeah, so mesa could be a table. Cats not seeing a table. Dog not seeing a table. Same phenomena. Tibetans didn't have chairs. They sit on the floor, cushions. So the Tibetan word for chair, kupja, means butt lift. Because lifts your butt, so sit in a chair. So probably when they saw a chair, they're like, I don't know what that is, but it lifts your butt. And so now we got a name. Yeah, Devin.
There's some confusion, right? Because
Is there anything
things-
confusing about
there's
this?
lots of confusion.
Okay.
But things don't inherently exist, right?
They don't exist inherently, but the definition of inherent existence is existing independently from its own side. But they do exist. But we always see them
Like the illusion is real.
relative. How you see anyone or anything is subjective and relative.
Right, I see that.
Yeah.
But the word in English was chosen, the word emptiness.
Yeah, so it's empty of. So like if you're seeing me as John, I'm empty of the John that you're seeing. That's not in me. What you're seeing is a mixture of your whole life's experience, all the people you know, and how you see me as different from them or in a particular way. And then Sam sees John differently than you do. I'm empty of what you're imputing upon me as John. It's not inherently in me.
Well, this is easier to wrap my head around than what I thought prior.
Good. That's what we're shooting for.
My head. So, very hard.
Yeah, I think,
Pretty circular.
right. I think people is the easiest way, because I think everybody can really get that all of you see a different John, right? And I'm empty of that John that you're seeing. But I'm something here, right? And I'm bringing something to the party. Cherry cake, if I could. Pie, cherry pie, what I'm saying, cake. We had cake at the last. What were we talking about? Okay. You're welcome. I'm on dessert already. So, when we start recognizing that people and things, it's nice to work with people because it's so more tangible, is that I'm always going to perceive you not as you are inherently. I'm going to see a mixture of, what I'm bringing to my experience of you and what you're bringing. And there's going to be a merging. And then I'm going to put that label on. I'm going to say, so-and-so's kind of like this and so-and-so's kind of like that. And, but none of those qualities are inherently in that person as who they absolutely are, and nobody's independent. Then we get to the whole other trickier bit is everyone and everything is changing moment to moment. So I'm not even the same John of yesterday or a year ago, 10 years ago. But we feel like we are. We even say things like, I used to do that. Except I didn't used to do that. Previous John did that. And so how things start to exist, we can start recognizing how I am in a constant state of becoming, which is quite empowering because now I have an option to participate in how I become. And then I also have an opportunity to start perceiving you differently, take a whole different attitude and see you differently. And it'll change my whole experience with you. One of the favorite practices I have from His Holiness Dalai Lama is to just see everyone you meet as a dear friend. And it's like, wow, it changes your interactions. Everyone you meet, a dear friend, And wow, people, they know you see them. It's quite wonderful. And it's very different than seeing someone who's in your way or, and then have a very different experience. So in this, we start to see things more accurately. Then there's a fluidity that's available. And we don't get stuck in reifying a person as being a jerk or being annoying or, whatever label we stick on someone. Because once we stick that label on them, wow, every time they come in the room, I'm either annoyed or feel anxious, they're a jerk, and I can't see what else they're capable of being. All right, Kimberly, save me because I'm taking us in the deep
Can
end
do.
here.
Good
Hang on
try.
a sec. I don't think I have my speaker set up right. Let's see here. Those blue lights are on. The volume. Headphones. That's right. That's plugged in. One more setting. Oh, I see why. I think we got it. Go ahead, Kimberly.
This is one of the harder things for me to wrap my mind around. And
Really?
um, um, do you think I'm getting closer? Like I'm looking at my salad. If I just pretend nothing has a name, and what I'm looking at is plastic with green leaves. It's not a beet salad. I named it that. Or there's a skin over bones. I mean, I don't know if I could do that for people, but everything just seems easier and calmer when I pretend it doesn't have a name. Then my mind's not associating it with anything. Is that any closer?
It'd be hard to call your dog. Um,
Yeah. Preacher, preacher with apricot curls, or I don't know.
We actually have a little area just outside town. It's called No Name. It's a little sort of town. It literally is called No Name. Um, but so the name's not the problem. The label's not the problem. It's the reifying it as though um, it exists independently. So labels are helpful. You want to call your dog, give him a name. You want to order something off the menu, we have a name. And so we can all agree upon that's how we function. Labels are helpful, and expectations are helpful. Go to a gas station, we expect gas to be there, so forth. Where we can get stuck in this, and here's the whole sort of pivot, is as I start changing, my perception of my experience changes. So, for example, just back to the annoying person thing. If I start recognizing that the person's not annoying, I'm feeling annoyed because I think they should be different. Annoying's in me, not in them, right? And then I start, being a little better with my judgments around people and recognizing maybe I start noticing some things they do that's not annoying. I start understanding that my annoyance is really coming from judgment and my own self-centeredness, not from the person. As I work on that, I start cutting through the belief system that a person's annoying, and I start recognizing my judgments are what's causing annoyance or my self-centeredness. And as I work on that, then I don't have so many annoying people in my world. And they didn't need to change. Right? So as I change, my experience changes. Because how I'm experiencing the world is subjective. It has a lot to do with me, my attitudes, whether I got enough sleep last night, whether I'm in a hurry or not, whether I took a little time to focus on gratitude today or just got up and got in a hurry, right?
So it's inner
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. So labels, even labels we can work with, instead of find someone annoying, they're not annoying, but in this moment, I'm experiencing annoying, with this person, right? Who shall remain nameless at the moment. And so we don't waste a lot of time trying to fix things. We get the opportunity to fix ourselves. But we still function in a world where there are harmful people doing harmful things, and we address those. So there's a conventional reality that takes place. And so we don't want to go to too far extremes, right? Where nothing is sort of nihilistic way of being. And then we don't want to make things too real as though they are the cause of my suffering. And so there's really a blend in the middle. There's experienced people do things. People, hitting you with a baseball bat. They're hitting you with a baseball bat. It hurts, and you can't think your way out of that. And so, but how we relate to that experience, we have quite a bit of capacity. And so as we get down to its core, which I think may come up here, maybe I should read a little more, is a grasping to a sense of self as very independent, very separate. And that's where the self-centeredness kicks in, and then starts identifying the whole world as whether I like it or I don't like it, or I don't really care about that. I'm only interested in this. I'm really interested in not that. And then we impugn all these qualities onto the this and the that, like and don't like, and I think they're in those things. I don't even realize that as I change, things I didn't used to like, I can start liking, and so forth. I can actually get rid of annoying people in my life by working on me, which is a lot more functional. Because once I label that person, that kind of person, knowing every other person like that, I'm going to be annoyed by it. Create a lot more annoying people in my life. So if you try to get away from annoying people, you're going to have a lot more annoying people, because you'll see those people. But when I recognize annoyance here, then I just don't see too many annoying people. So if I sound annoying right now, you're wrong. You can see why I always stick with this lesson. No one can definitively find me annoying. Hey, Dinah, good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
A question. Okay. Is a problem with this emptiness and this constant change that it makes us misperceive what's really going on? Misperceive reality? Is that kind of the essential problem with this?
Yeah, it's the core issue.
Okay.
And so the core issues I just don't understand. For example, I really think that person's annoying. And, and that's not how it is, right? Annoying's me, not them. And so we can, as we misperceive ourselves and others, then we create all the karma, all the habits, all the tendencies about how we experience people and things and events. And we impugn. Is that right? Impugn or impugn? Impute. Impute? Imbue. That's better. I'm going with Ben. All right. Imbue these qualities within the objects. But it's really coming a lot from our side and some from its side, right? It's not just us. It's a coming together, right? Ashley.
Yeah. So how do you balance that idea of there being something, but it's not what we think? I mean, is there any way of even getting an idea of what is out there then? I mean, it's something, but it's not. I was reading something somewhere uh, about it being just like pure potential. Would that be kind of more
Pure
little?
potential is an interesting way of looking at, what we see or what we may there's just a field of potential. Then we can get into physics and quantum physics, and it gets really exciting. But the important thing here is also remember conventional reality. So, I'm picking up a cup, I'm drinking water. I know it's a cup, I know it's water. I know that if I don't get water for a few days, I'm probably going to die. That's all pretty conventional. And so due to our karma and our current way of being, these are very normal things in a human body. And so that's all fine. Where we start having problems, and you'll start noticing ourselves, is our attachments that arise from wanting this and not wanting that. This needing to be like this and not need to not be like that. And we're projecting on those items, events, these big catastrophes or great joys as the source of your happiness, safety, well-being. And then you get a lot of stress, worry, fear, and then clinging and attachment and so forth. So because of the exaggeration of the qualities of that we put on these things and people. And so if you can keep it down to not exaggerating their qualities, then we're going to function in a conventional world much, much better. And we won't have those strong attachments and preferences and aversions. And you could be happy with a glass of water or kombucha. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Man, could add a kombucha, but I only got water. Or when you're thirsty, water's pretty good for you. Some people don't like kombucha. You don't like kombucha, do you? Yeah. Stuff, yeah. Laura likes kombucha. Well, certain kinds. You're not big on the guava stuff, are you? No, you're more on the ginger lemon thing. Yeah. So there we have it. The kombucha is not delicious from its own side. But water's necessary. It brings life to us. But boy, this didn't cost me $3.89. Of course, it doesn't do some of the other things the other stuff does either. So, we can be so disappointed that we didn't get this and we really need that. We get caught up in those things, and when then we're lacking contentment, well-being with what we do have. Because our mind is grasping and imbuing qualities onto these objects as though they're the source of my happiness or suffering and things. Which to some degree, so what they are is a condition, right, that is giving rise to either suffering or joy or, not much feeling at all. And so it's still relevant. But at some point, as you cultivate wisdom, you'll start recognizing more accurate the nature of phenomenon. We talk about Rigpa, this pure, pristine awareness, and you'll be experiencing everything very differently. So as you change, your experience of everything changes. And at some point, you would be able to have a direct experience of the empty nature of phenomena. But that's as I mentioned here, kind of difficult. Takes a Probably one of those 1-month programs. Yeah. And so that's also very important to remember, that the difference between nirvana and samsara is only my mind. Nirvana is not some other place. I'm just free of all the delusion. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy, right? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, right? Yeah. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, yeah, this is one of those teachings that I have some understanding of intellectually, and every once in a while I kind of feel like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But then other times I'm like having an experience and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this is devoid of inherent existence. It's like, this is just overwhelmingly what it is.
Like cherry pie.
I mean, mine are tend to be in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Like negative experience.
Okay. Yeah.
Like something that's really overwhelming, or something that's like, I'm just really miserable.
Mm.
I'm just like, holy cow! Like, I know John would, tell me, Buddhism would say, like, this is not inherently like this. This phenomenon is not inherently from the outside like this. I just feel like there's no way that can be. So I get it intellectually, but then trying to realize that things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Seems much more. Yeah.
Very much. Oh, we didn't hand you a microphone.
Oh, yeah.
So all of you online, he basically said, he pretty much gets this. And
Just can't do it.
yeah, intellectually, but doing it's a whole nother journey, right? And that is the deal, like getting it in. But also I find that getting it intellectually, well, how's it helpful, right? How's it helpful? So if it's not very helpful, what's the point? And that's where you can see, the benefit of recognizing that, like being annoyed is within me. And if I work on that, I'm not going to find so many people annoyed. That I'm going to be happier, right? Being attached to this event happening, is actually taking me away from being happy with what I already have, we can start to work with that. And then difficult things, that's where it really becomes quite helpful. But in whether it's joy or pain, the extreme of it is where the strongest sense of I comes up. I am in pain. I am in bliss. Big I there. I am angry. Huge I. And so one of the most time-tested methods to start to find selflessness is you actually, in a meditation where you go through a vipassana practice, is you kind of bring up anger. And then you'll see a strong sense of you. And then you go, okay, who is this you that is angry? And then you invert and start seeking to find who is angry or who is in pain. And if you do that repetitively, you're going to find out, well, you're not going to find you that is in pain. And there it becomes like a realization. So it's a practice of looking into who is in pain. Yeah. And then potentially why? Yeah, he had a hand than you. But microphones, okay. Okay.
Does samsara inherently exist? Is it
It's empty. It's empty.
Huh.
So's nirvana, and so's the path to nirvana. So what the heck are we doing here?
Yes, Guruji. My question is, so we're this knower, we're this knowing, and we're knowing the field of activities. So I kind of have a question about that. Is the instruction here to contemplate the knowing is emptiness, that the phenomenon, the phenomenal experiences appearing in knowing are empty. There's a relationship there that we're able to like remove fault. It's like a way, like a solution. And also, could it be said that we're all sharing the same knowing, but we're in different lenses? Could you maybe share something about individuality as in comparison to?
Yeah, so Buddhism doesn't propose that we're all one or all, in that sense, but would say we're all of one taste, which is distinction there. But the individuality is in a stream of consciousness that we identify with, right? So how we exist is in a constant stream of consciousness. So it's not like there's a soul that we're dragging around day to day, but rather this consciousness, this awareness is moment to moment, it's continuous. And in this continuum of consciousness that is unique to you, right? Unique to you. That stream of consciousness is embedded with karmic imprints and kleshas, karma and kleshas. And based on the karma and kleshas, these afflictive states, they give rise and coming in contact to how we experience ourselves and others. So based on, from a Buddhist perspective, many lives, the habits, the habituations, the karma, and the store consciousness gives rise to how we were born, how we see ourselves, how we experience the world. And so when we see this room, and how I see the room and the colors and all that, how I perceive it, how I experience it. As I change my karma and remove some of those kleshas, this whole thing changes. And even my experience of myself changes. And at some point, if one were to fully go through the path, you can develop the capacity to be in that awareness, that level they call the bhavanga, the ground of becoming. And then at some point even break through it so there's no sense of an individuality. And then you've broken through. There's not one, not more, not all those things of one and more, that they don't add up anymore. There's no becoming, no going. But that's cutting through that whole individuated stream. And awareness is the way to get. So we get to recognize that and start identifying more with my awareness than with my thoughts and feelings and emotions. Those are temporary. They're not who I am. But the awareness of those thoughts and feelings and emotions and sensations is getting closer to who we are. All right, Kimberly.
Today I worked with someone who I'm not a therapist, and been working with him for a while, and he can't remember. He has a traumatic brain injury. He can't remember from day to day, pretty much, or what we talk about, or even me. And he seems so. It's just like he's so close to his perception seems close to what we're talking about, of seeing everything new all the time. So I wonder if that's part of it too.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know either those things, but one that is more aware, remembers past, present, and future, so they're always in a state of knowing and also in a state of non-forgetfulness. So the capacity, like when one is truly mindful, or not forgetful, and so that awareness is, it's vast and knowing. So it's knowing. But I think what you're talking about is sort of that beginner's mind where, someone could be experiencing every moment as fresh. But we're also building upon previous knowledge, previous experience. And so part of mindfulness is bearing in mind, not simply being present in the moment, but being able to bear in mind something to remember.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get to the text, see what she says about this. Hopefully I was right about some things. Let's take ourselves, for example. Our mind instinctively believes that somewhere within our mind-body complex is real I or self that seems to exist on its own, independently. Most people never doubt the existence of such a self or wonder what it is. Buddhist masters say that if such an I exists, we should be able to find it. We could point to something and say, that is me. That is myself. But when we carefully examine the parts of our body and the mind, we have a hard time finding that self. There are only things that are not a self. A hand is not a self. A heart is not a self. A stomach is not a self. Even the mind is not a self because it consists of many different mental states that arise and disappear every moment. You might believe your brain is yourself, but check again. The brain is made of substances like cells, nerve fibers, arteries, and fat. Can you point to any of those components, say, that's me? That would be weird. It's my brain. Whose brain? Yeah. Oh, I'm so not going down the road I'm about to. Okay, I'm resisting. Can you point to any of those components, say, that's me? When you look in the mirror and think, you look pretty good or lousy, are you thinking that about your brain? When you say, I love you to another person, do you mean you love? You mean that your brain loves their brain? Come on, a couple nerds might be thinking that. Come on, all over MIT, man. My brain loves your brain. Although we have trouble identifying a real self when we search for it, that doesn't mean there's no self or I at all. There is an I that eats, sleeps, works, plays, meditates, and attains enlightenment. What is that I? According to the Prasangika school of philosophy, it is simply what is imputed or designated. All right, now we're back to imputed. In relation to our body and mind, a merely designated I. The same is true for all other phenomena, like living beings, cars, buildings, computers, books, pizza, and so on. I'm just hovering on pizza for a minute. Okay. They do not exist inherently, independently from their own side, but are merely designated by mind in relation to their parts as this or that. When we first encounter this explanation, we might feel baffled, even shocked or frightened. That's actually a good sign. It means the ignorance that is responsible for all of our suffering from beginningless time has been thrown off balance. As Arya Deva, one of the early Madhyamaka masters, wrote, "Those with little merit do not even doubt this doctrine, entertaining just a doubt not to exist inherently independently from their own side, but are merely designated by mind." Wait, I didn't go. Those with little merit do not even doubt this doctrine, entertaining just a doubt tears to tatters worldly existence. So just beginning to do this makes a huge difference, just beginning to explore. If we truly wish to become free of samsara and help all other beings do the same, we should not shy away from the topic of emptiness, but rather strive to learn about it from reliable teachers, study and discuss it and meditate on it. Proceeding in these ways, our understanding will gradually increase like the first rays of light at dawn, growing even brighter as the sun rises and travels through the sky. It does take time and effort. Students in Tibetan monastic universities study emptiness for 4 years after spending about 12 years learning more fundamental subjects. Even with all that exposure to emptiness, they usually claim to not fully understand it. So do not expect to realize emptiness quickly and easily. Yeah, but we have an advanced program. All right. A useful analogy to the process of understanding the true nature of things is investigating a mirage. In a desert at midday, we see a shimmering light blue appearance on the horizon. It looks like a lake or a river. We could swear there's a body of water over there, but if that were the case, the closer we get to it, the more clearly the water should appear. We should be able to touch the water and dip our feet in it and cool off. What happens instead is that we do not find a drop of water, only dry sand baking under the blazing sun. Similarly, if the I and all other persons and phenomena did exist in a solid, objective, independent way, they seem to, the more closely we investigate them, the more clearly that independent mode of existence should appear. We could put our finger on a real I, a real car, a real friend or enemy, but as we continue to analyze and investigate, that solid appearance becomes increasingly elusive until it vanishes altogether. That is the experience of emptiness. And then we'll go to two truths, and that's that conventional reality we live in, and then the ultimate reality, and how they actually give rise in a meaningful way. Clear as mud, right? We got this. So I really find in my own life that's been very helpful is understanding impermanence and subjectivity. I'm not angry. I'm experiencing anger. It comes, it goes. I'm not the anger. It comes, it goes. Impermanence, right? How I feel in this moment, it'll change, it'll come, and it will go. Everything's changing all the time. So I'll notice that all of my suffering arises from these three misperceptions. One, things shouldn't change. Think about how much you try not to change certain things in your life. Don't want this to change. I finally got it this way. I want to preserve it. It's always going to change. A lot of suffering. Even your plans for the day. I had a plan for the day, and then this comes up. Well, it's changing. So recognizing impermanence. I'm changing. People are changing. Things are always in a state of change. You'll find a lot of suffering arises simply trying to make things permanent that aren't permanent. Your friendships, your relationships, the world we live in, the You know, how many people do you hear struggling about how Carbondale's changing? You know, man, it's getting big and busy. Wow, probably changed inevitably, right? So, and then the other one is identifying a self, I, in a way I don't exist. So I identify as my emotions and feelings and thoughts as though they're who I am. When I'm sad, I am really sad. This thing's terrible. It's difficult. And then the real big I is there. And I forget that that experience will come and go, as every experience I've ever had in my life will come and go. And it's not who I am. It's just how I'm experiencing something in a moment. And think about how we limit ourselves and saying, I'm this kind of person. I'm a morning person. I'm a night person. I'm a people person. I'm not a people person. I'm, just all that stuff we say about ourselves. I'm an impatient person, or I'm a patient person, just all that. And we forget all these things are changeable, malleable. If I wanted to learn patience, I can start practicing patience. And guess what? You'll be a more patient person. Want to learn how to speak in public? You practice. There's a whole thing on speaking in public, right? There's a Toastmasters or something. You can learn to talk to people. It's one of the biggest fears. I think it's the second biggest fear people have is speaking in public. Anyway, you can learn how to speak in public. All these things are malleable. Now, I can't be a 6'9" basketball player. That's different. But thoughts, feelings, emotions, my body changes, my thoughts, feelings. So, but I do limit, right? When I think I'm not very good about that or this. When I taught high school I still had a chalkboard part of my career before the whiteboard. Now they have smart boards. But it said, if you think you can't, you're right. How many times do we think don't try things because we just don't think we're capable? So, opportunities. And then the other one, the third one, so 3 misperceptions. Yeah, things are impermanent. That's reality. The self that I identify with is always changing. It's a stream of consciousness. It's arising in dependence upon body and mind and conditioning. I kind of make it solid, independent, separate. But I only exist in dependence upon everyone, everything. You guys hear me say it all the time. I wonder if you ever get tired of it. That every word out of my mouth is dependent on all the words that were ever taught to me, all the education that was ever given to me. The fact that people figured out how to write, the fact that schools were created, all of those things are causes and conditions for anything to come out of my mouth. There's nothing independent here of me. No thought in my mind is independent. Nothing I say is independent. It's all because of others. Many I've never even met that created anything I get to know, learn, or experience. And that is really valuable to remember. And then the other one is that phenomena out there is not the source of our happiness or suffering. That things, people, places, events, they are only conditions that can give rise to those experiences. How we relate to them is what causes that joy or the suffering. So if we can start to remember those things, then this becomes very practical. But fundamentally, when I start changing my karmic imprints, my way of being, I start experiencing things differently. And I can create virtuous karma that gives rise to a very different experience, or non-virtuous karma, which gives rise to a more difficult experience. But it's all subjective, it's all changeable over time. Please tell me that sounds practical. Thank you. You're in my corner. Because as long as we're out there trying to change the world to make us happy, we're not going to be happy. But when I understand that everything that's arising is arising in dependence upon a myriad of things over centuries of civilization, things that give rise to everyone and everything, and then, how do I engage with it? What's healthy? What's meaningful? What's helpful? Then, we have a real good opportunity to cultivate those qualities. All right. So just a little dabbling into the ultimate nature, reality, emptiness, how we exist and perceive the world. Subjective and relative. Subjective. Relative. Someone's tall, depends on someone who's short. What's average height? It's relative. All right. All right. With that, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit and the wisdom that we have cultivated. Well, the merit anyway, that we may have cultivated here today. I don't know if my talking provided any wisdom, but hopefully it was helpful in some way. Dedicate our time here. There's a lot of things that we could have been doing on Wednesday night. And here we are, cultivating understanding, kindness, compassion, care for ourselves and others. It's meaningful. So let us dedicate any and all merits from our time together for the benefit of all beings. May our collective efforts find their way into the world, nurturing the seeds of freedom and liberation, of loving kindness for others to be free of suffering. And may we also dedicate this merit for our own continued spiritual growth, that we may ultimately recognize our own Buddha nature and be free from all suffering and be of greatest benefit to all beings. And with that context, those who'd care to can join me in formal dedication. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.